Welcome back to the Deep Dive, listeners. Today we're diving into a topic you might have come across online, maybe in those corners of the internet where things get a little weird. It's something called adrenochrome.
Yeah, adrenochrome.
Definitely a word that sends shivers down the spine, right?
It is.
And it comes with a whole lot of baggage, too, a lot of conspiracy theories. So today we want to peel back the layers of this whole adrenochrome thing. We're going to look at what's real, what's definitely not, and what's somewhere in between. You know how we do it here, trying to cut through the noise and get to the heart of it all?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a topic that's gained so much traction online, becoming this center point for a lot of conspiracy thinking. I mean, it blends these really disturbing stories with, honestly, a lot of misunderstanding about the science involved.
Right. And for those who are like, adrenochrome, what's that?
Yeah, well, let's start with the conspiracy theory itself. Yeah. It usually revolves around this idea of a chemical that's supposedly extracted.
Extracted from a person's adrenal glands, but not just any person. The conspiracy theory claims it has to be someone who's going through extreme trauma, and this is where it gets really disturbing. They often talk about children being the victims.
Oh, yeah. It's dark stuff.
It is. And the claim goes that this substance, adrenochrome, is then harvested by who else but a powerful, shadowy elite, right?
Yes, of course.
They're supposedly using it for its alleged rejuvenating properties, like it's some fountain of youth, and for some kind of intense psychoactive effects. Like, imagine the worst things you've heard about adrenochrome, they probably came from this conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's definitely designed to shock. I mean, right off the bat, it paints this very grim and, like you said, deliberately shocking picture.
Yeah.
But here's the crucial thing. This whole narrative really clashes with the actual reality of what this chemical compound is. We've got to separate the fictional horror story from the science.
Totally. So, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We'll dive into the real science of adrenochrome, break down what this conspiracy theory is all about, who these supposed elites are, how this harvesting is supposed to work, and what these supposed benefits are. We'll also look at how misinformation, the stuff that spreads like wildfire online, and certain cultural elements have helped this theory gain so much traction.
Yeah, we'll examine all of that. And importantly, we'll look at the complete lack of any credible evidence. Like, where's the proof? Because that's what matters, right?
Absolutely. Evidence is key. And then, it wouldn't be a deep dive if we didn't get a little psychological, right?
Yeah.
We'll touch on some of the reasons why a belief like this, even with no evidence, can take hold.
Right.
So let's get started. First things first. What is adrenochrome? Like, is it even a real thing?
It is. Adrenochrome is a real chemical compound.
Okay, so it's not just a made-up word for some scary story.
No, not at all. And what's interesting is that it actually comes from epinephrine.
Epinephrine. Wait, is that the same thing as adrenaline? The stuff our body pumps out when we're stressed.
Exactly. Adrenaline. It's a naturally occurring hormone, and it's vital for our fight or flight response. When you feel threatened or super excited, adrenaline kicks in. Now, when adrenaline goes through oxidation, a chemical process, it can create adrenochrome. This oxidation can happen naturally in the body or even in a lab. But here's the thing. Adrenochrome isn't very stable. It can exist in different forms and breaks down pretty quickly.
So it's like a byproduct of adrenaline. That's a far cry from this idea that it's being extracted from terrified people, right?
It's definitely a big difference.
And the conspiracy theories, they give it these almost supernatural powers. It's a super drug, a fountain of youth. What does the science actually say about all that?
Well, this is where the gap between the conspiracy and reality is just massive. A lot of what people think about adrenochrome actually comes from the work of fiction, specifically Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, he depicts it as this, like you said, super powerful, rare psychoactive drug, and it's supposedly taken from the adrenal glands of living people. But, Fear and Loathing. It's satire, right?
Yeah, I mean, that book is wild. I remember that adrenochrome scene. It's super surreal.
Exactly. It's not meant to be taken literally. But that's kind of what happened. I mean, Thompson's portrayal, because it was so outrageous and had this countercultural appeal, ironically gave conspiracy theorists this, underground origin story for adrenochrome, like it was this hidden truth.
Right, it plays into the distrust of mainstream narratives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the reality is, scientific research into adrenochrome has been quite limited. There were some studies back in the mid-20th century that looked into a possible link between it and certain mental states. But the thing is, those findings were never really replicated consistently, and they're considered outdated now, not reliable.
So scientists aren't looking at it as some kind of magic hallucinogen with crazy effects.
No, there's no real scientific evidence to back up the claims of rejuvenation or any of the other extraordinary effects in these conspiracy theories. It's really remarkable how fiction has been taken so literally, and become the basis for these elaborate and disturbing claims.
It is, and it gets even darker, right? The conspiracy theory paints this picture of this evil elite cabal that's torturing and murdering people, specifically children, to get their adrenaline, which is then supposedly processed into adrenochrome. It's horrifying.
It is. And it often points fingers at specific groups and individuals, people in Hollywood, politicians, secret societies, and portrays them as, totally depraved. They're desperate for these supposed benefits of adrenochrome. And the descriptions of how they harvest it, they're often graphic and upsetting. And honestly, they echo themes from other harmful conspiracy theories. Satanic ritual abuse, child trafficking myths. It's like these narratives feed off of each other.
Right, it's layering fears on top of fears. And the whole idea of rejuvenation, of staying young forever, it seems to be a big part of the appeal too, right? This idea that the rich and powerful are using adrenochrome to cheat death.
Absolutely. It taps into this primal human desire, to live longer, to cheat aging. And there's always been this suspicion of the wealthy and powerful, this feeling that they're hoarding secrets, getting unfair advantages. So yeah, you combine that suspicion with this fear of aging and the horror of what they're supposedly doing to get adrenochrome, and you have a potent cocktail of fear, disgust, and a feeling of injustice. It's a strong motivator to believe.
Yeah, it's like a perfect recipe for a conspiracy theory. So how did this specific one get so big? I mean, it seems like it's everywhere online.
Well, the internet has definitely played a huge role. Misinformation can spread so quickly through social media, online forums, and websites dedicated to these kinds of theories. These spaces can become echo chambers, where people only see information that confirms what they already believe, no matter how inaccurate it might be. You see a meme, a catchy image with some scary text about adrenochrome, and boom, the idea spreads.
And then, like we talked about, there's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. How much did that book really fuel this whole thing?
It's been pretty influential, unfortunately. The book, remember, it's satire. But people in these conspiracy circles have taken that exaggerated portrayal of adrenochrome and twisted it. They see it not as fiction, but as some kind of insider knowledge, a secret being revealed.
It's kind of mind-blowing how fiction can be morphed into truth like that. And then, more recently, the adrenochrome myth got linked to QAnon, right?
Oh yeah, that was a big turning point. QAnon, with its whole narrative about this cabal of Satan-worshipping pedophiles in the government, really latched on to the adrenochrome myth. It fit perfectly into their worldview. They saw it as more evidence of this evil cabal's depravity, their horrific acts against children. So that connection with QAnon really boosted the spread of the adrenochrome conspiracy. Like, one harmful theory gave a platform to another.
Right, it's like they built on each other, created this even bigger, more disturbing narrative. But like we've said, the science just doesn't support any of this. There's zero evidence for these crazy effects. There's no proof of this mass harvesting of adrenaline from people. Nothing.
Yeah, it's important to be very clear. There is no scientific evidence to support the claims made about adrenochrome in these conspiracy theories. None. The idea of harvesting it from traumatized people is not only scientifically implausible, it's morally reprehensible.
And despite all the gruesome details they share, there are no real witnesses, no evidence of these rituals, no underground labs, no proof of anyone using this harvested adrenochrome.
You got it. The evidence they present usually boils down to misinterpretations of fiction, quotes taken out of context, pure speculation. No hard data, no accounts from people who are supposedly involved. It's all based on rumors and misinformation.
So this isn't just some harmless, weird belief, right? There are real consequences to this kind of widespread misinformation.
Absolutely. This adrenochrome conspiracy, especially because it's tied to child trafficking narratives, it's incredibly harmful. It spreads fear, it makes people distrust each other even more, and this is crucial, it can distract from real efforts to combat child exploitation and abuse.
Yeah.
It's like people are so focused on this imaginary threat, this fantasy, that they lose sight of the real problems, the real victims.
Yeah, it shifts the focus to where it shouldn't be.
Exactly. And it gets worse. These types of theories have been linked to real-life harassment and violence. People who get deep into these beliefs, they can be driven to act on them, based on these misconceptions. It's not just a theoretical danger.
It's scary to think about the real-world impact. So, given that there's no evidence and it can actually cause harm, why does this conspiracy stick around? Why do people believe it?
Well, there are psychological factors at play here. For one, a lot of people distrust authority, the government, the media, institutions. That distrust can make people more likely to believe in conspiracies, especially ones that claim there are hidden agendas, that the powerful are manipulating things behind the scenes.
Right. If you already distrust those in power, it's easier to believe they're capable of something truly awful.
Exactly. Plus, there's a certain appeal to the idea of having secret knowledge, of knowing something that most people don't. It makes you feel special, like you're in the know. And that feeling can be really powerful. It can drive people to believe in and spread conspiracy theories.
It's like belonging to a special club, the people who know the truth.
Right. And then there's confirmation bias. Once someone believes in a conspiracy, they tend to seek out information that confirms what they already think. And they'll ignore any evidence that contradicts their belief, even if it's solid evidence. It's like they build a wall around their beliefs, blocking out anything that challenges them.
It's like you're building their own reality.
In a way, yeah. And lastly, we can't forget the emotional element. Conspiracies often play on strong emotions: fear, anger, a sense of injustice. And the adrenochrome myth, with its horrifying imagery and claims of child abuse, it really pushes those emotional buttons. Those strong emotions can actually override logic and critical thinking.
So it's like a mix of fear, distrust, the allure of secret knowledge, and all of that is amplified by these intense emotional triggers. It's a recipe for belief, even without evidence. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the adrenochrome conspiracy, what are the big takeaways? What should our listeners remember?
The most important thing to remember is this: the adrenochrome conspiracy theory is dangerous and completely false. It takes pieces of fiction. It plays on anxieties about power and corruption, but it's not rooted in reality. The claims about its effects, about harvesting it from people, it's not supported by science. There's no proof.
And the harm it can cause is real. It's linked to other harmful ideas, it distracts from real issues, and it's even been connected to violence.
That's right. And again, there's no evidence, no scientific studies, no witnesses, no data. The sources for this theory are usually misinterpreted fiction and baseless speculation, all amplified by the way information spreads online.
And understanding the psychology behind it, the distrust, the desire for secret knowledge, the confirmation bias, the emotional triggers, that helps explain why people believe it even when it's been debunked.
It does. And this brings up a big question for all of us, especially in today's world. With so much information out there, so much of it designed to make us feel something, how do we stay committed to evidence and critical thinking? Maybe understanding the psychology behind these beliefs is the first step to navigating this, really complex information landscape.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time, listeners.